Everyone, back to channel. Today we're going to learn the Toxoplasma gondii. Actually, it's discovered by the Nicoli and Mannix and a small rodent, that is in a rat, that is known as gondii. It is in Africa, so hence the name, the Toxoplasma gondii. And its human importance of causing disease was learned after 30 years, and the two cases were found, first in the Castellani from the Sri Lanka and also Junco from Prague. And later they find out it as a coccidian parasite, mainly present in the intestinal phase of the family Felidae, mainly, especially the domestic cat Felis catus. So here you can see the domestic cats. So this is found in the intestine of this Felis cat. So what is this? The Toxoplasma gondii is an obligate intracellular parasite. Obligate means compulsory and intracellular parasite. It affects a wide range of mammals including humans and birds. So the human will be the intermediate host and the cat or the Felis will be the definitive host. So here we are going to learn all this content. So let's see the morphology. So the T. gondii exists in the three morphological forms, that is the two asexual forms and one sexual form. The two asexual forms are the techizoid and the tissue cyst, and the sexual form is the oocyst. Now let us see about the asexual form, techizoid. So this techizoid here you can see it's like finger-like process, something like that. So and the pseudocyst is here. So the crescent shape having a pointed anterior end. See, you can see the pointed anterior end and a blunt posterior end, approximately 6 μm in the length and the 2 μm in breadth. So infect all mammalian nucleated cells except the red blood cells. So that is so important. Except RBC, it infects everything. So in the host cell, they are like distended forms by proliferating these techizoids and appears as a pseudocyst. You can see as at the anterior end, the techizoid contains a special organelles like rough-ties. At the anterior end, where is the anterior end? At the sharp end. So there are rough-ties here, and the micronemes, which are the crucial for the adhesion and invasion in the host cells, they are also there. And the round nucleus is situated between center and the posterior end. You can see between the center and the posterior end, a round nucleus. And the tissue cyst, even this is asexual form. The tissue cyst is also containing the bradyzoids, and the bradyzoids are surrounded by a cyst wall. A tissue cyst vary in size. The younger tissues are like tissue cysts are like 2.2 to 5 μm containing the few bradyzoids. Older tissues cysts more than 100 μm contain the several thousands of bradyzoids. So you can see here the younger tissue cyst and older. The older contains many and the younger contains only few. And the tissue cyst, that is the bradyzoids, is 7 μm in the length and 1.5 μm in breadth. It's more slender. You can see the crescent shape with the nucleus situated posteriorly, of course. It contains several strongly periodic Schiff granules. So this is important. It contains the PAS, amylopectin granules, and multiplies slowly. It is seen in the chronic infection, more resistance to the gastric juice, because it mainly lives in the intestine, so it should be for sure resistant to the gastric juice. Tissue cyst. The tissue cyst is actually a wall. The cyst wall of the tissue cyst is eosinophilic and weakly PAS positive, that is periodic acid Schiff stain positive. And most common site of the tissue cyst is the muscles and the brain, and can be found in any organs, of course. They appear in spherical in the brain and oval in the muscle tissue. This is important. Spherical in the brain and oval in the muscle tissues. And the morphology of this tissue cyst is it's mechanically ruptured to release the hundreds of bradyzoids, because you can see bradyzoids are only in the tissue cyst, right? Not the techizoid hole in the cyst wall. So you can see the conversion of the techizoids to bradyzoids can be triggered by many factors, like especially the interferon gamma, nitric oxide, heat shock proteins, pH, and also the temperature changes. So these trophozoites and bradyzoids are interchangeable anytime because of these factors. And the oocysts, you can see they contain the sporocyst with the 4 sporozoids in one sporocyst. So let us see about this. It's just 10 to 12 μm in size. The double layered colorless cyst wall. You can see the double layer colorless, and the unsporulated oocyst excreted in the cat feces is non-infectious cyst here. So this is present first in the feces of the cat, but later it converts into sporulated, which is infective, but the unsporulated is non-infectious. The sporulated oocyst contains 2 sporocysts, that is 18 to 6, each containing 4 elongated sporocysts. Here you can see. And next, coming to the life cycle. So the definitive host, as we said, the sexual cycle takes place, and that is in the cat and the Felis. And the intermediate host, here we can take the man and other mammals like goat, sheep, pig, cattle, cat, and also certain birds. Again, the cat may be also infected, so that is important to remember in the intermediate host. Now let us see about the life cycle. Actually, the life cycle is divided into sexual cycle and asexual. So asexual cycle takes place in our human beings, and the sexual cycle takes place in the cat. So the life cycle is a asexual cycle or exoenteric cycle in the human cycle. So the infective form, that is a T. conda, is unique among the protozoa as well as three morphological forms can transmit. So the uniqueness is all the three morphological can form the infection. The transmission to man by occurs because of the ingestion of sporulated fish, not unsporulated. There are sporulated fish which are the infective form for the contaminated soil, food and also water. The most common route will be the contamination and the ingestion of the tissue cyst containing this bradyszoids infective form from the undercooked meat. So in the undercooked meat there is bradyszoids. In the contaminated food or water there are oocysts, sporulated oocysts. By blood transfusion, that is needle, by needles, accident or some other laboratory, there the techizoids are the infective forms. Transform into the techizoids in the intestine. Actually, these sporozoids are released from the sporulated oocyst first, and the bradyzoids are released from the tissue cyst. So they invade the intestinal epithelium and transform into techizoids. Transformation into tissue cyst. The techizoids multiply actively by endogenicity and spread locally to the mesenteric lymph nodes, and subsequently they are spread to the distant intestinal organs like our brain, skeletal, cardiac muscles, liver, where they transform into the bradyzoids, which may multiply slowly to form the tissue cyst. Cycle or the enteric cycle, that is a felinsic cycle that takes place in the cats. So cat and the other felines definitive hosts acquire the infection by ingestion of the tissue cyst in the meat of the rodents and also other animals. So the tissue cyst is the infective form to the cats. So the bradyzoids are released from the tissue cyst which invade the intestinal epithelium and undergo several cycles of the asexual generation, that is the schizogeny first. After the sexual cycle, which is the sexual cycle, the gametogeny begins with the parasitic differentiation to form the male and female gametocytes, in which they transform into male and female gametes respectively. So the fertilization of male and female results into zygote and later surrounded by thin resistant rigid wall to form the oocyst. This is easily understood. So the oocysts are result in again the cat feces which are unsporulated and non-infective. Maturation takes place 2 to 3 days later in the humid environment. So humid environment is required to form the sporozoites within the sporocyst, that too in the oocyst. So the mature sporulated oocyst containing 2 sporocysts is infectious to man for about 1 year. So this is very, the rodent or other mammals acquire the infection by ingestion and food and water containing the sporulated cyst. So the sporulated oocysts enter the man. Excitation takes place in the intestine, that is the sporozoites come out from the oocyst. So the sporozoites or the bradyzoids are released and they invade the intestinal epithelium, that leading to formation of techizoids. Gummy, that is a spread to the mesenteric lymph nodes and spread to the extra intestine. So from the lymphs they can easily travel to the brain, muscle, eye and also fetus. If sometimes the female or female is pregnant, then it may also go to the fetus and transform into the bradyzoids. So in the muscles and these places they go and transform into bradyzoids, that is nothing but tissue cyst formation. So again this tissue cysts get cat acquires infection by ingestion of rodent meat containing the tissue cyst. So one thing here you need to remember is for man the oocyst is infective and for the cat the tissue cyst is infective. So the order, let us see the order once. So first we have the oocyst, after oocyst we have the techizoids, and after the techizoids you have the tissue cyst. So the oocyst, techizoids, tissue cyst. And next again to the rodents, and the rodents, the bradyzoids released in the intestines, schizogony, bradyzoids, gametogony, male and female gametocytes, fertilization, zygote, unsporulated oocyst. So this is taking place in the cat. Unsporulated oocyst in the cat feces. First unsporulated, later it converts into sporulated oocyst. Again the sporozoids release. So again the man infect and the cycle easily continues. So this is the asexual part taking place in the man and the sexual part of course taking place in the cat. Very easy process. So it's the clinical features. The toxoplasmosis is an immunocompetent in immunocompetent patients. So what happens in the immunocompetent host, both the humoral and cellular immune response are control of the infection. Of course the various mechanisms include, there is activated macrophages, production of parasitical antibody, production of IF and gamma, and also stimulator of CD8 plus cytotoxic T lymphocytes. And next, hence the acute toxoplasmosis in the immunocompetent host is usually asymptomatic and self-limited. So this host is competent, that means he has a well-defined immune system, so he can easily fight with that. It also lead to lymphadenopathy, that is the most common manifestation of acute toxoplasmosis in the cervical lymphanoid, the neck region you can see. And the other lymph nodes may also affected like suboccipital. Suboccipital means occipital backside of your skull, and supraclavicular, that is upon our clavicle, and also the inguinal nodes, in the inguinal region, that is the groinal area. And other symptoms include the headache, malaise, fatigue, fever. So the rare complications are the maculopapular, pneumonia, myocarditis sometimes, and also encephalopathy, that is in the CSF. And the acute infection usually resolves within the several weeks, although the lymphadenopathy may persist for some months. So you can see it's the cervical lymph nodes in the 19-year-old boy with acquired toxoplasmosis. And also the next, the immunocompromised host, that is the patients with HIV, malignancies in fetus, and in clinical manifestations are more severe due to the lack of immune system. So if the immune system is low, we know it easily attacks. So the tachyzoids are disseminated to a variety of organs, particularly lymphoid tissue, skeletal, the tachyzoid. So first the oocyst, next the tachyzoid, and next the tissue cyst with the bradyzoid. So the tachyzoid is the one which moves through the lymph to the different organs, even to the central nervous system. So at this site, the parasitic infect host replicates, leading to cell death, focal necrosis, surrounded by acute inflammatory response. So the toxoplasmosis in the immunocompressed patients, that is where there is no immunity power, that is toxoplasmosis patients with HIV, there is a severe case it may get. And pathogens is due to direct invasion by the parasite, leading to the necrotic encephalitis, and also due to secondary pressure effects on the CNS. So the patients may present altered mental status, seizures, if central nervous system like mental disorders, focal neurologic findings, nerve palsies, and visual field loss. So apart from CNS infection, other manifestations include also pulmonary infection and chloroantiasis. So the CT scan here you can see the pathogenicity and the clinical features. So in congenital, so sometimes the IgM is the one which crosses the placenta and enters the fetus. So let us see what is there. The mother acquiring the toxoplasma in pregnancy is usually the asymptomatic. Mother is asymptomatic, but the child or maybe symptomatic. However, she can transmit the infections to the fetus. So the gestation age is the main age factor influencing the fetal outcome. As the gestation proceeds, the chance of transmission increases, but the severity of the infection declines. So the small infant, if the infant age is very low, then it is easily affected, and if infant age increases, then the chances of this disease may decrease. If the mother becomes infected during the first trimester, the incidence of transplanted infection is lowest, but the disease in the neonatic is more severe. That is what we said. So then the maternal infection occurs during the third semester. The incidence of transplantation infection is maximum. So in third semester it is maximum, but the infant is usually asymptomatic at the birth. If the mother is infected before pregnancy, the fetus is mostly unaffected, except when the mother is immunocompromised. So what they are saying is, whenever some pregnant woman is already before attacked by this toxoplasmosis, then no problem, but if she is attacking for the first time, it may also pass to the child. And the pathogenic clinical features, so congenital toxoplasmosis, ocular involvement. So what happens, you can see defects in the eyes, most frequently causes chlorinoanthritis, leading to profound visual impairment. Other ocular manifestations include blurred vision, scotoma, photophobia, strabism, glaucoma. Other manifestations also stillbirth, that is intracerebral calcification, zygomatic disturbance, microcephaly, and also hydrocephaly. So you can say hydrocephaly and the spastic baby. So like this, the in the macula of the eye. And the pathogens of clinical features, the congenital toxoplasmosis is a torch infection. So torch means the toxoplasma is included as one of the component of torch infection, a term used to denote the agents causing congenital. So other are rubella. So what is the toxoplasmosis? R for rubella, C for cytomegalovirus, herpes simplex virus. Others which include the Treponema pallidum, syphilis, varicella, etc. So it is associated with some other diseases. The incidence of the congenital toxoplasmosis is approximately 1 per 1000 live births, and this is important cause of repeated abortion and infertility in the female, and hence routine antenatal screening for toxoplasma is advised in many advanced countries. So it may also lead to the problems in the female. And the laboratory diagnosis, so without microscopic examination may be specimens. Sometimes we'll take the specimens, and direct fluorescent antibody test, coma-shaped tachyzoids are found detected in the smear made from the blood, indicates the acute infection, and the tissue cyst is made, which denotes the presence of infection but cannot differentiate the acute and chronic. And next, coming to the direct microscopic exam, you can see the Zimsa staining, the histopathology of the brain pseudocyst with numerous tachyzoids, and also tissue cyst containing the bradyzoid stained with the hematocyanin and eosin. And also the antibody detection can be done ELISA, IFA, IHA, LAT, and also the laboratory diagnosis like antibody detection, as well as said IgG, IgM, and antibody detections. You can see some of them. And indirect fluorescence antibody test, which shows the tachyzoids coated spear with the human antibodies. We can also detect the toxoplasma antigen, that is detection of antigen indicates the acute infection. So this is also useful to diagnostic congenital infections. And we also have the molecular diagnosis, that is a polymerase chain reaction. It is employed to detect the toxoplasma specific DNA various clinical like blood or body fluids. So the PCR is highly sensitive specific, can be used to diagnose the TE or congenital infections. And real-time PCR is a more sensitive, rapid, and provide the quantitative results. And coming to this laboratory animal inoculation, sometime we do, that is, the mice die in the 7 to 10 days, and peritoneal fluid in the spleen aspirate smear show techizoid. So observed for 6 weeks, and the tail body screen for toxoplasma antibodies. Also do the tissue culture. Tissue culture T. gondii can be isolated by inoculating into murine alveolar and peripheral macrophage cell line and also other cell lines. And finally we have the treatment. The treatment is in the immunocompetent patients. What we do is only lymphoadenomyopathy, we do not require specific therapy unless they have a persistent severe symptoms. So but the patients with the ocular toxoplasmosis are treated for 1 month with pyrimethamine, sulfadiazine, clindamycin, and also prednisone. So the congenital toxoplasmosis neonates with congenital are treated with daily oral of pyrimethamine and also sulfadiazine. These both combination work in a very good way with the folinic acid for 1 year. And treatment also is also rapidly fatal in immunocompromised, so if not treated, so in many progress to encephalitis, so treatment is essential for this. And the proper hygiene maintenance, hand cleaning of people, handling cats, other felonies, regular perinatal and antenatal screening to detect toxoplasma infection in women of childbearing age, avoiding cat feces, oocysts, contaminated materials like cat's litter box, and also the screening of blood blanks or organ donors for antibody to the T. gondii. So this is all about our Toxoplasma gondii.